as we know, what is the date? The 17th. We only have 2 weeks left. And at some point in these 2 weeks, the fascist Supreme Court, the fascist Christian Supreme Court, will overturn the constitutional right to privacy that a woman has only had for the past close to 50 years. And I mean that literally. There is no examination of my sex organs. There's no examination of anything to do with my use of my sexual organs for procreation or recreation. I mean, there's no law. There's no constitutional guarantee that's about to be overturned by a bunch of fascist Christians. I mean, what happens inside my sexual organs is nobody's business, right? But that's not true, you see, with women as of the announcement of the gutting of Roe v. Wade. And it wasn't true of women up to the decision in 1972, 73, that women had a right to privacy that included the sacrosanctity of their reproductive organs. But it's going to end. It's going to end. But guess what? There are prosecutors around the United States who are declaring openly that they are not going to enforce some of the most restrictive and punitive anti-abortion laws that these fascist Christian-led states have been waiting years to force onto women. They're not going to do it. Now, this is reported by the Associated Press, and this idea, this thought, this development of prosecutors around the country, county prosecutors, is going to really piss off these fascist Christian lawmakers and governors, right? Because about half the states are ready to ban abortion when Roe v. Wade is overturned. And many of these states that are led by these fascist Christians have abortion clinics that are established in the large metro areas. And those areas are usually represented by Democratic district attorneys. So the district attorneys in some of these areas are making it very clear, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to turn women into criminals or worse because they exercise the right to privacy and control over their own bodies. I mean, when you take these sentences apart and look at what the end of Roe v. Wade really means, if it doesn't, totally make you furious that these fascist Christians are going so far as to say that women do not have the right over their own reproductive systems. I mean, what the fuck? If that is not direct from the Adamic religions, nothing is. Women, you dirty bitches, you ate of the tree, you brought death, all right? No play fucking for you, oh no. And when you get pregnant, it's going to hurt like hell. That's the Abrahamic religion's dictum to women because of what they did. My God, you see, please indulge me. I know you do, but don't you see how fucking ridiculous all of this is? Oh my God. All of what, Mike? The religious bullshit. That because of this mythology of this story that ancient people told each other about creation, every culture has had some sort of creation myth. Every culture. And they're entertaining and interesting, but that's what they are, creation myths. Stories. We love stories. But we're going to burn and execute people because they don't agree with our story? What the fuck? I digress. So in these states where there are so-called progressive prosecutors, they're just not going to enforce this bullshit. Anti-abortion laws in this country have traditionally largely stayed away from explicitly punishing pregnant women. And instead, they've tended to target the physicians. Right? That's why these fascist Christian nutfucks, have no problem assassinating clinic workers or doctors. But they hesitate to put a bullet in the head of a woman who is trying to exercise control over her own body. That's the way it has been. And physicians who have been targeted, not only could they be killed, that would be the worst thing, but they could also face loss of their medical license, lengthy prison sentences for performing a procedure that has been legal in this country for 50 years. And I don't know, prior to Roe v. Wade, I remember in my lifetime in the 50s and 60s, people talked about abortion. Oh, it was hush hush, and you had to go to Mexico or someplace else. And, the stories about the abortions were just horrifying. But prior to that, I don't know, the 17th century, 16th, 15th, I have no idea. But some abortion restrictions would penalize those who assist in an abortion. And other of these laws in these various states now that are going to go into effect could require women who secured an abortion to testify against those who helped her. So it's not just a woman's privacy that's being destroyed. It is tangential privacies that these laws by these Christian demons that would be destroyed. Now, the truth is, enforcement of these laws that the fascist Christians have put in place, waiting for the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade, the enforcement will fall largely onto district attorneys, and they have a lot of discretion over who they're going to charge with crimes. And right now, it is not unusual, I have read, for prosecutors elected in Democratic counties to voice their resistance to bringing charges under various Christian fascist bullshit laws that these devils have passed. For example, like voting restrictions or limits on certain protest activity or laws aimed at lesbian and gay and trans people and restrictions on mask requirements during the COVID-19 outbreak, which we are still in. And a lot of prosecutors have looked at some of these laws, which if they were actual laws, they were probably, I'm sure they were misdemeanors. But they've looked at these laws and just said, get the fuck out of here. We're not going to enforce this kind of craziness. And in 2020, according to the Associated Press, more than 70 prosecutors from so-called blue districts around the country publicly said that they would not bring charges under increasingly stringent laws that states have passed against abortion because these prosecutors said they, quote, should not and will not criminalize healthcare decisions, end quote. Now, to be clear, to date, the Tennessee Attorney General's office has told the Associated Press it has not exercised the new law. And meanwhile, the state's top Republican leaders up there in Tennessee, well, it's up there from here. Well, it's not real. Well, yeah, it is up there. The state's top Republican leaders who oversee every major political office in that state they've remained quiet on Attorney Funk's defiant stance. And his office is being kind of quiet about it, too. His office has declined to answer follow-up questions, which is the way it should be, I guess. I mean, as long as these fascist Christians are dancing around as though they had a witch burning at the stake, or some Jew or Muslim or atheist about to be impaled in an Iron Maiden, and they're dancing around out of joy, unless they're doing that, maybe it's best to just be quiet about this and have normal people go about the business of living a normal life. Because the fascist Christians, if there's one thing they really want, is that publicity so they can show the terminally brain dead, look at me, I'm acting for the Lord. I'm sending women to prison. I'm sending doctors to jail. Ha ha! I'm doing the Lord's work. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.